He looks like he's still doing the same thing that he always does, you know, cocaine, hookers.
Yeah, Colby's a habitual liar. Really don't like him.
Tyrone Woodley, you're a freaking coward! Why'd you let this little this ass whooping tonight? This is supposed to be you! You can't run, you can't hide no more, Tyrone Woodley! I'm coming for you!
Colby's that one person that, and I always say this, wherever I see him, it's a free pay-per-view right there, you know?
Hey, what's going on, fight fans? Welcome to our YouTube channel and hope you are doing well. In today's video, the fighter in focus is one of the best welterweights of the UFC currently, Colby Covington. Covington has been a mainstay at the top of the welterweight division ever since he made his UFC debut. He is a former interim champion and is seen by many as the one who has the capability to dethrone the current welterweight champion, Kamaru Usman. Seen by many as the villain and the heel character of the UFC, Covington has divided opinion amongst fans and athletes when it comes to the portrayal of his outspoken character outside the octagon. And that's what we will be covering in today's video, as we see what opinions and feelings his fellow colleagues and friends have about him as an individual.
Number 6. Colby Covington is a really bad person. Jon Jones.
Covington, in several of his press conferences and interactions with the media, has taken aim at his former friend and UFC great Jon Jones. He has attacked Jones on several occasions by bringing up his tumultuous exchanges with drug busts and his history of failed doping tests with the USADA. According to Covington, him and Jon were college roommates for 2 years, and even then, Jones was always courting trouble through his actions.
Jon's irrelevant these days. He's not fighting. His last 2 fights were split decision wins that a lot of people thought he lost. He just looks like he's washed up, man. He looks like he's off the steroid. He looks like he's still hitting pregnant ladies and running to the foothills like a coward. He looks like he's still doing the same thing that he always does, you know, cocaine, hooker.
Jones was asked about Covington at the press conference of his UFC 247 title defense against Dominic Reyes, to which he said, "Covington is a habitual liar, and it takes a special kind of a liar to come up with the things that he is speaking in the media about me." Jones admitted that they were roommates for 1 semester and hit back at him by saying he is a really bad person by nature.
Colby's a really bad person. He really is.
Jones used the animosity shown by the likes of Masvidal, Tyron Woodley, and Dustin Poirier, who were former teammates of Covington at American Top Team, to stand by his judgment of Colby acting as a bad egg in the UFC. Well, there's one fighter who clearly dislikes Covington and has a clear hatred for him. Watch this video with Jon in his own words.
Yeah, Colby's a habitual liar at the end of the day. There's no coincidence that, you know, Tyrone Woodley got to know him and hates him. Masvidal got to know him and hates him. I got to live with him and really don't like him. Any of you guys got to know him, man. He really is a rotten person. I think the MMA community is going to start to see it over the years.
Number 5. He is a fragile dude. Jorge Masvidal.
Another target of Covington's hostilities in the media is former friend and training partner Jorge Masvidal, who competes in the same division. Covington has labeled Masvidal as Street Judas, poking fun at Masvidal's self-proclaimed name of Street Jesus. In fact, Colby and Masvidal were roommates when both started their journeys in the UFC. Both used to train together and would accompany each other's corners in their respective fights. But according to Jorge, the friendship started to crack when Colby showed his true colors. Colby started to go after Masvidal on his number of double-digit losses and his image of being a journeyman in the UFC in this tweet. At this time, many believe Colby was getting jealous of Masvidal's resurgence in his career, as he has started to bag big money fights with the likes of Nate Diaz at the MSG. Masvidal had kept quiet about Colby's verbal tirades on social media, but had this to say about him when asked about him. Colby is a fragile dude with no sense of loyalty. He tweets and posts mean stuff about me on social media just for a few likes on Twitter. I mean, who sells a friendship just for a few likes on Facebook and Twitter? Masvidal referred to Colby's disloyalty when Colby refused to pay up Jorge's coach his end of the deal after he became the interim welterweight champion by defeating Rafael dos Anjos at UFC 225. In fact, things had got so personal that police had to be called to separate both men in an incident. In this interview, you can have a clear understanding of Jorge's animosity towards Colby.
Just for the record, Jorge, why do you dislike him so much?
The start of it all is my coach, and he goes, "Man, I would love to work with your coach." So he works with my coach for about 2 months, and then my coach tells him, "I take 5% of what you make. That's what I charge." And Colby said, like the that he is, "Yeah, of course, for sure." Guess what? He stiffed him. Just like he goes around stiffing people, just like he got kicked out of Top Team and he's been kicked out of the gyms in Oregon and stuff. He stiffed my coach, and since that day on, I've been wanting to put my hands on him. My coach said, wait, we're gonna get him in the ring, don't do it for free, and stuff like that. But Colby's that one person that, and I always say this, wherever I see him, it's a free pay-per-view right there, you know?
Okay, well, those are some strong words by Jorge. And a fight between these two somewhere down the line is surely gonna bring him the eyeballs and the money for the UFC. What's better than two friends turned foes going after each other inside the octagon? It's a clear hit in all directions.
Number 4. I don't sell out like Colby Covington. Dustin Poirier.
Amongst the people that Colby has gone after on social media and press conferences, you would think the last person he would have something bad to say about would be his old training partner and UFC great Dustin Poirier. Dustin and his family have been the aim of Covington's jabs on Twitter, and to be honest, many of them have been below the belt. Prior to UFC 264, where Poirier was gearing up for his fight against McGregor, Colby had posted a video of Dustin dropping an amateur sparring partner during his training for UFC 242 title match and celebrating on his face after dropping him. He referred to Poirier as a dirty individual for that incident. Colby recently called Masvidal jealous of his success and Poirier childish in an interview, and that he would beat both of them in a fight. He had also accused Poirier of using his Good Fight Foundation as a facade of being the good guy of the UFC and told he would expose him very soon. Poirier, to his credit, hasn't felt the need as of now to address those comments with a response, but I suppose he saw Colby's true nature coming out, as during his UFC 242 post-match presser, he summed up Colby in a few words when asked about whether he would want to face him.
Would you be interested in fighting next? Masvidal and Nate, it's the BMF belt, so you're a BMF, so...
George is a buddy of mine. I don't sell out like Colby Covington and talk bad about people who I roll with. No, George is a buddy of mine. I won't fight him. He's a training partner. He's a good guy. If anything, I'll go out to Florida and help him for that fight.
Number 3. Covington has been doing a lot of barking. Tyron Woodley.
Covington has been very vocal about his opinions on his former friends and training partners, and amongst them is the former welterweight champion Tyron Woodley, whom he met in 2014. Woodley, being the big dog of the AT&T gym, was riding high with his status as the welterweight champion of the UFC and was seen by the AT&T management as the mentor who can develop future talents for the gym. The gym had set up a developmental program for youngsters who had to go through trials and, if selected, would have a chance to train with the champ Woodley. Covington was one of those guys who got selected and was then drafted in as the sparring partner for Tyron. Covington, detailing that experience, said that the experience was very fake. I could tell that the first day after training. He wasn't bringing me in as a teammate or this and that. He was trying to tee off on me. He was trying to look good and build his confidence off of me. I wasn't going to let that happen. I'm not here to be a sparring partner. I'm here to win my own world title and to be the best fighter in the world. As a reply to Covington's remark, Woodley nonchalantly had this to say. Colby used to be my warm-up guy. I hate to break the news to you, but I used to pay him to beat him up. $500 a week, plus food, plus hotel, plus rental car, plus gun range, plus entertainment, plus personal trainers, pad work, massage therapy, yoga. I spoiled him. Now all of a sudden he's bumping his gums. The pair's animosity has been ever present since both started competing in the UFC. The former champ Woodley had several opportunities to fight him, but due to Covington's injuries and non-availability, the fight for the title couldn't materialize. Covington accused Woodley of ducking him on several occasions, saying that he was scared of him. But there were many occasions where Woodley was game to fight, but Covington was unavailable. But the two would face eventually in 2020, where Covington emerged victorious, thus putting an end to their rivalry. Now, time for the fun fact.
Fun fact.
Covington, even though being a divisive figure, needs to be given credit for coming up with hilarious nicknames for his fellow fighters. For instance, calling Masvidal Street Judas and Dustin Poirier as Dustin Saurier and Kamaru Usman as Snoozman.
Number 2. He is a big mouth idiot. Dana White.
Covington's persona as the heel character of the UFC had now reached fever pitch when he decided to go after the president of the company, Dana White. Covington had issues with Dana after the title clash between Usman and Woodley was made official for UFC 235. Covington voiced his displeasure of not being given the title shot even after being the interim champion and not being given an explanation by the UFC. He would then take matters into his own hands and remarkably decide to confront Dana White in a Las Vegas casino and talk about the issue. In this video, Covington can be seen talking to Dana about the situation. Ultimately, Covington did get his long-awaited shot at the title when the UFC made the title fight between him and Usman at UFC 245. Prior to that fight, Covington continued to attack Dana by saying that when he wins, he won't allow Dana to wrap the belt around him, and if he does, he will smack him with it on the head. Well, that never came to fruition as Colby was defeated by Kamaru Usman in the final round of a thrilling fight. Nevertheless, that was over the line from Colby, and when asked about it, Dana had this to say.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that. He's a big mouth idiot.
Well, since then, Covington has been very careful with his comments on the president.
Number 1. Many of the other fighters share the same sentiment.
Apart from being a great fighter, Colby doesn't seem to have a lot of fans and admirers for his behavior outside of the octagon. Following are some of the opinions his fellow fighters have of him. Up first, Leon Edwards. Kamaru Usman, the current welterweight champion of the UFC, who derailed the Colby hype train, had this to say about him. Both are going to square off once again for the title at UFC 268, and we can't wait for what both have in store for us. Colby seems to be this figure who fellow fighters just can't stand the sight of, and would likely deal with him inside the octagon just to shut him up. But no one can deny he's a great fighter, even though his mouth also does a lot of damage to others. Well, alright, this is the end of the video, but before we leave, we would like to know what you think about Colby Covington's persona and character, and is it an act or a real portrayal of himself? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.